When Big Shaq walked into a luxury hotel after a long day, he expected a warm welcome. But what he got was a cold dose of prejudice. The staff dismissed him based on his casual appearance, not realizing they were turning away one of the world's most influential figures. What happens next will leave you speechless as Big Shaq returns, not as a guest, but as the hotel's owner, ready to teach a lesson they'll never forget. Before we dive deeper into this remarkable story, take a moment to comment below and tell us where you're watching from today. The boutique hotel stood as a beacon of luxury in the bustling heart of the city. Its sleek glass facade shimmered under the soft glow of the setting sun, reflecting the opulence within. Inside, the lobby was a symphony of elegance. Marble floors gleamed under the soft light of ornate crystal chandeliers, and the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint hum of polite conversation. Guests dressed in tailored suits and designer dresses lounged in plush armchairs, exchanging soft laughter and business talk. The staff, immaculately dressed in tailored uniforms, moved with precision, offering warm smiles and impeccable service. Against this backdrop of exclusivity, the scene shifted with the entrance of a towering figure. Shaquille O'Neal, affectionately known to the world as Big Shaq, stepped through the polished glass doors. He was dressed in a simple gray hoodie and dark jeans, his casual attire in stark contrast to the meticulously curated ambiance. Despite his understated clothing, Shaq exuded an air of quiet authority. His presence was magnetic, commanding attention not through words but through sheer presence. As Shaq approached the front desk, the receptionist, Marissa, straightened her posture. A young woman with a sharp gaze and a polished smile, she prided herself on her ability to size up guests at a glance. Her eyes flickered with thinly veiled judgment as they scanned Shaq's attire. The pristine desk separated them, but her demeanor erected an invisible wall. "Good evening," Shaq began, his voice warm and deep, a tone that conveyed both politeness and confidence. "I'd like to book a room for the night." He slid his credit card across the desk. Marissa hesitated, her smile tightening. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her tone polite but devoid of warmth. "We're fully booked for the evening." Shaq raised an eyebrow, his gaze briefly flicking to the computer screen behind her. A list of available rooms was clearly visible, though Marissa made no move to conceal it. "Fully booked?" he asked calmly, tilting his head slightly. "I see rooms available right there." Marissa stiffened. "Unfortunately, those rooms are reserved," she replied curtly. "There's nothing I can do." The sharpness in her voice hinted at more than policy. It was laced with a subtle but undeniable bias. Shaq held her gaze for a moment, his calm demeanor unshaken. "Is this about my appearance?" he asked, his tone level but probing. Marissa's smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "Our policies apply to everyone," she said, her voice defensive. Before Shaq could respond, the glass doors swung open, admitting a well-dressed couple. The man wore a tailored navy suit, the woman an elegant cocktail dress. Marissa's entire demeanor transformed. Her smile became genuine, warm, and inviting. "Welcome to the Royale," she greeted, her voice honeyed as she quickly produced a room key. The couple exchanged pleasantries with her before being directed toward the elevator. Shaq stood silently, the contrast in treatment painfully evident. He nodded slowly, his expression unreadable, as the flicker of disappointment in his eyes spoke volumes. "Thank you," he said quietly, retrieving his card from the counter. As Shaq turned and exited the lobby, the chill of the evening air met him, a stark contrast to the warmth inside. He paused outside, his breath visible in the crisp air. His mind raced, not with anger, but with resolve. He had seen prejudice in many forms throughout his life, but tonight's encounter was a stark reminder of the work still left to be done. Glancing back at the hotel's glowing facade, Shaq's jaw tightened. He wasn't just a man turned away. He was Big Shaq, a basketball legend, a businessman, and an advocate for change. With a deep breath, he pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen before he dialed a number. "Let's do it," he said, his voice firm and resolute. The wheels of change were about to turn. Shaq sat in his car, the engine humming softly as he stared at the illuminated facade of the hotel through his windshield. The cool leather seat beneath him offered little comfort against the weight of the evening's events. His hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, but his mind raced. This wasn't the first time Shaq had faced bias. Memories from his early days in basketball flickered through his mind. Moments when assumptions were made based on his appearance, when respect was conditional and recognition hard-won. Yet, tonight felt different. The blatant nature of the rejection, the casual ease with which Marissa dismissed him, cut deeper than he expected. "I'm not just thinking about me," Shaq muttered under his breath, the low timbre of his voice steady but tinged with determination. "It's about everyone who walks through those doors and gets turned away for not fitting their mold." Shaq's reflection was interrupted by a flicker of movement inside the lobby. Through the wide glass windows, he could see Marissa standing at the front desk, her posture relaxed, her lips curled into a smirk. The hotel manager, a middle-aged man with slicked back hair and a suit that screamed self-importance, approached her. Their conversation, though inaudible from where Shaq sat, was accompanied by casual gestures and laughter. "They're probably patting themselves on the back," Shaq thought, a bitter edge creeping into his thoughts. Inside, Marissa leaned against the counter, her tone light but condescending. "Did you see him? Rolling in here like he belongs in the VIP suite," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. The manager chuckled, adjusting his tie. "You handled it well," he replied, his tone smug. "We have to protect the hotel's image, you know? People expect a certain level of clientele." Marissa nodded, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "Exactly. You can't just let anyone in. This place has standards." Their laughter carried through the pristine lobby, mingling with the soft clinking of glasses from the bar in the corner. Back in the car, Shaq's jaw tightened. The more he watched, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a single act of prejudice. It was part of a system, an ingrained culture that thrived behind polished marble and crystal chandeliers. Shaq's phone buzzed in the cup holder beside him, breaking the stillness. He picked it up, scrolling through his contacts until he found the name he was looking for. With a decisive tap, he placed a call. "Hey, it's me," he said when the line connected. "I need you to move forward with the plan. Tonight." The resolve in his voice was unshakable. Tonight's rejection wasn't just a personal slight. It was a catalyst. And Shaq was determined to turn this moment of prejudice into an opportunity for change. Sitting in the quiet of his car, Shaq's fingers hovered over his phone screen, his mind resolute. Tonight wasn't just about reclaiming his dignity. It was about confronting a much larger problem. The blatant bias he had experienced wasn't isolated. It reflected a broader systemic issue that too many people faced daily. Taking a deep breath, Shaq scrolled through his contacts and tapped on a familiar name. When the call connected, his voice was calm, but brimming with determination. "It's time," he said simply. "Let's move forward with the deal." On the other end, his business advisor hesitated, clearly caught off guard. "The hotel? You're sure?" "We were planning to evaluate the numbers more thoroughly next quarter." "I'm sure," Shaq replied, his tone firm. "We've been considering this place for months. After tonight, I'm done waiting. Make the calls, and let's fast-track the acquisition." As the advisor outlined the logistics, Shaq's focus sharpened. He had spent years building a network of businesses and investments, but this one would carry a different weight. It wasn't just about profit, it was about principles. When the first call ended, Shaq immediately dialed another number, this time his legal team. "I want to make sure everything's airtight," he told them. "The purchase, the policies, everything. This place is about to become a symbol of what it means to treat people right." With each call, Shaq's resolve deepened. This wasn't just about owning a hotel. It was about reshaping its culture from the inside out. The memory of Marissa's smirk and the manager's casual arrogance fueled his determination. As the final call ended, Shaq leaned back in his seat, staring out at the city lights. He thought about the countless people who had likely been dismissed and demeaned in that same lobby. People who didn't have the platform or resources to fight back. They deserve better, he murmured to himself. We all do. Shaq wasn't just planning to buy a hotel. He was planning to make a statement, one that would ripple far beyond the marble floors and crystal chandeliers of its lobby. And by the time he was done, no one would mistake luxury for exclusivity again. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the Royal Vista Hotel's polished glass exterior. Inside, the lobby buzzed with its usual air of exclusivity. Marissa, the same receptionist who had turned Shaq away the night before, stood behind the marble desk, her demeanor polished but distant as she handled the morning check-ins. The rhythmic click of dress shoes on the marble floor broke the mundane chatter. Heads turned as Shaq entered the lobby, this time dressed in a sharp, tailored suit that accentuated his towering presence. His confidence was palpable, radiating authority with every step. Marissa glanced up, her practiced smile faltering slightly. She didn't recognize him right away. Last night's hoodie and jeans had been replaced with an impeccable ensemble. She hesitated before speaking. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the Royal Vista. How can I assist you? Shaq's lips curled into a polite smile, but his eyes carried a quiet intensity. I'm not here to check in, he replied smoothly. I'm here for a meeting with the staff. Marissa blinked, clearly confused. A meeting? I don't recall anything being scheduled. Trust me, it's scheduled, Shaq said firmly. He gestured toward a nearby staff member. Could you please gather everyone in the lobby? I'll only need a few minutes. The authoritative tone in his voice left no room for argument. Within minutes, the entire staff, housekeepers, front desk workers, the concierge and the manager, assembled near the grand staircase, their murmurs of curiosity growing louder. Shaq stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. He stood tall, scanning the room before finally addressing the group. Good morning, everyone, he began, his voice calm but resonant. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shaquille O'Neal. As of last night, I am the new owner of the Royal Vista Hotel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marissa's face turned pale, her hand flying to her mouth as recognition set in. The manager, standing stiffly nearby, shifted uncomfortably. Shaq continued, his tone steady but unyielding. I came here last night, just like any other guest. I was tired from traveling and looking forward to a quiet place to rest. But instead of being welcomed, I was dismissed, lied to, and made to feel like I didn't belong. His gaze swept across the room, resting briefly on Marissa and the manager. Let me be clear, this kind of behavior has no place in this hotel. Discrimination, bias, and judgment based on appearance, that ends today. The room was silent, tension thick in the air. Shaq turned his attention directly to Marissa, his expression firm but not cruel. Marissa, would you like to explain why you told me the hotel was fully booked last night? Marissa stammered, her voice barely audible. I thought... You thought what? Shaq prompted gently, his calm demeanor unnerving her further. The manager interjected, his tone defensive. It must have been a misunderstanding. We were under the impression that you... Shaq raised a hand, silencing him. I watched as you gave a room to another couple moments after turning me away. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a choice. A choice rooted in assumptions about who I am and what I deserve. He let the weight of his words settle before continuing. This hotel is a symbol of luxury. But true luxury comes from how we treat people, not just how we present ourselves. From now on, this place will be about inclusivity, respect, and excellence, not elitism. The staff exchanged uneasy glances, a few nodding subtly in agreement. Shaq softened his tone slightly, addressing the entire team. I'm not here to fire anyone outright. I believe in second chances, but change starts with accountability. There will be new policies, training, and expectations. If anyone here isn't ready to embrace that, this might not be the place for you. Marissa looked down, tears pricking her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Shaq nodded. Apologies are a start. Actions are what matter. Turning to the manager, he added, leadership begins with setting the right example. I'll be reviewing every aspect of how this hotel operates, and I expect your full cooperation." The manager nodded stiffly, clearly humbled. Shaq's gaze returned to the team as a whole. "This isn't just about me. It's about every person who walks through those doors, whether they're wearing a suit or a hoodie. Everyone deserves respect. And together, we're going to make this hotel a place that reflects those values." The room erupted into quiet applause, some staff members looking visibly relieved, others thoughtful. Shaq gave a slight nod before turning to leave. His presence had shifted the atmosphere entirely, leaving behind a sense of change that could not be ignored. The room was quiet, save for the faint hum of conversation among the staff as they tried to process the morning's revelations. Shaq stood at the center of the lobby, his towering frame exuding both authority and empathy. He looked at the gathered employees, his voice steady and filled with purpose. "This hotel has the potential to be more than just a business," Shaq began. "It can be a place where people feel valued and respected, no matter who they are or what they look like. That's the vision I have for the Royal Vista Hotel." Shaq took a step forward, addressing the staff directly. "Starting today, we'll be implementing new policies. There will be mandatory bias training for every employee, including management. We'll work together to create a culture that reflects what this hotel should stand for: fairness, inclusion, and respect." His words resonated deeply with some staff members, who shifted uncomfortably as they reflected on their behavior. Others exchanged uncertain glances, unsure of what the changes would mean for them. "Change isn't easy," Shaq continued, his tone softening. "But it's necessary. We're not just fixing what's broken. We're building something better. Together." Marissa, the receptionist who had turned Shaq away, took a shaky step forward. Her face was pale, her hands trembling slightly. I want to say I'm sorry," she began, her voice cracking. "I judged you based on assumptions, and that was wrong. I know I have a lot to learn, but I want to do better." Shaq nodded, his expression kind but firm. "Acknowledging it is the first step, Marissa. Now it's about what you do moving forward." The manager, Joel, who had dismissed Shaq's concerns earlier, seemed less sure of himself. "Mr. O'Neill, I'll admit I didn't expect this. I was just following what I thought was the hotel's unwritten code. But maybe it's time to rewrite that code." "It absolutely is," Shaq replied, "and you'll have the chance to be part of that change. But know this, there won't be room for the old ways. Everyone here will be held to the same standard of respect and professionalism." Shaq's gaze softened as he addressed Marissa and Joel directly. "I believe in second chances. We've all made mistakes, and we've all had to learn from them. That's how we grow. But this is your opportunity to prove that you can change. If you can't, then this isn't the place for you." Marissa nodded vigorously, tears brimming in her eyes. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Joel hesitated before offering a slow nod. "I'll do my best to earn that trust." As the staff absorbed Shaq's words, a quiet determination began to spread through the room. The housekeepers, servers, and concierges started murmuring to each other, some expressing relief that the culture would shift, others expressing nervousness about adapting to the new expectations. Shaq stepped back, letting his words settle. "This isn't about punishment," he said. "It's about creating a better future for all of us. And I'm here to make sure we get there." The emotional fallout wasn't just about shame or regret. It was about hope. Hope for a culture of kindness and fairness that could redefine not just the Royal Vista, but everyone who worked there. Shaq's compassion was the spark, but it was now up to the staff to fan the flames of change. Weeks later, the Royal Vista Hotel was barely recognizable, not in its physical appearance, but in its energy. The marble floors still gleamed, and the chandeliers still cast their golden light, but the atmosphere was warmer, more inviting. Guests of all backgrounds walked through the lobby, greeted with genuine smiles from a staff that now carried themselves with pride and purpose. The change wasn't cosmetic. It was cultural. Employees treated every guest with equal respect, whether they arrived in a designer suit or jeans and a hoodie. Marissa, the once dismissive receptionist, now greeted visitors with a warmth that felt authentic, her tone carrying the sincerity she had gained through weeks of bias training. Joel, the manager, had become an advocate for inclusivity, leading staff meetings focused on respect and empathy. News of the hotel's transformation spread quickly. The Royal Vista became a symbol of progress, drawing attention from travelers and media alike. Bookings surged, not because of flashy promotions, but because word of mouth carried a powerful message. This was a place where everyone was welcome. In the lobby, Shaq stood beside a young bellhop, listening as the employee described how proud he was to work under someone who cared about people, not appearances. Families posed for photos with Shaq, children marveling at his height while their parents shared how much they admired his leadership. Later, as Shaq sat in his office overlooking the bustling city, he reflected on what had started as a moment of rejection. By standing his ground and taking action, he had turned prejudice into an opportunity for growth, not just for himself, but for everyone connected to the Royal Vista. "I've always believed in teamwork," he said to Joel during a staff meeting, "on the court and in life. What we've built here isn't just a hotel, it's proof that change is possible when we work together." The story ended with the hotel thriving and its legacy solidified as a beacon of justice, growth, and inclusivity, a testament to the power of standing up for what's right. As the once prejudiced hotel thrives under its new inclusive policies, Big Shaq watches quietly, knowing he's turned a moment of bias into a legacy of change. But here's the real question. How many others will step up to challenge prejudice and create a ripple of transformation in their own lives? What would you do if faced with such injustice? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more inspiring stories that prove one act of courage can change everything.